In 1845, a group of Baptist pastors in the South packed up and walked out of their own denomination. The fight wasn't over Jesus. It wasn't over the Bible. It was over whether a missionary was allowed to own slaves. The rest of the country said no. So the Southern Baptist Convention was born, out of that one argument alone. Fast forward to 2022. A group of Methodist pastors did almost the exact same thing. A completely different issue, but the same move. Pack up, walk out, start a new church. This time it wasn't slavery. It was whether their denomination could ordain gay clergy. Same instinct, 177 years apart. Baptist and Methodist churches share the same Bible and believe in the same Jesus, but they don't agree on basically anything else. Baptism, salvation, and also who's actually in charge of the church. Stick around till the end as we explore not only why these two break apart, but we'll uncover interesting facts most people don't know. Interesting fact number 1. The 1845 split is the actual founding event of the Southern Baptist Convention, now the largest Protestant denomination in the United States. And it started as a fight over slave-holding missionaries. Let's start at the beginning, because both of these churches were born out of rebellion. Baptist origins. Go back to 1609. A former Anglican priest named John Smith is hiding out in Amsterdam with a small group of English exiles. Smith does something radical for the time. He baptizes himself. Not as a baby, he's already an adult. He believes baptism only means something if the person being baptized actually understands what they're agreeing to. That one decision is the seed of the entire Baptist movement. Fast forward to the American colonies. A preacher named Roger Williams gets kicked out of Massachusetts in 1636 for saying the government has no business forcing anyone to worship a certain way. He heads south, and in 1638 he starts the first Baptist church in America, in Providence, Rhode Island. That persecution baked something permanent into Baptist DNA. No bishops, no headquarters, no one above the local church telling it what to do. Every Baptist church answers to itself. Interesting fact number 2. Roger Williams didn't stay Baptist for long. He later left the Baptists too. Williams became convinced that the true church had lost its original authority, and that no existing Christian church could simply claim to be the legitimate continuation of the apostles. Methodist origins. Now rewind to 1720s Oxford, England. A student named John Wesley joined his brother Charles and other students in a small religious club. They meet on a strict, almost obsessive schedule, pray at set times, study scripture together, visit prisoners in jail. Other students think it's ridiculous and start mocking the group, calling them Methodists, because of how methodical and rigid their little routine is. That insult is where the name comes from. It wasn't a badge of honor, it was a joke. Interesting fact. Number 3. John Wesley never meant to start a new church. Wesley himself remained an Anglican priest until his death in 1791. Methodism only became its own separate denomination after his death, mostly because there weren't enough Anglican priests in America to keep up with how fast his movement was growing over here. So right from the start, you've got two completely opposite instincts. Baptists believe every local church should govern itself. No bishops, no hierarchy, no one outside the congregation calling the shots. Methodists take a different approach. They believe churches are stronger when they're connected through a larger structure, with pastors, bishops, and local churches all working together. The big theological fight: Calvinism versus Arminianism. Now for the argument underneath basically everything else: who actually gets saved and who decides? Historically, most Baptist theology leans Calvinist. That means God chooses who gets saved, an idea called election. And once God saves you, that's it. It can't be undone. That's where the phrase "once saved, always saved" comes from. Methodists follow John Wesley, and Wesley stood firmly on the other side, a view called Arminian. In his view, God offers salvation to literally everyone, but gives every person real freedom to accept it or reject it. Wesleyans generally reject the idea that genuine believers are guaranteed to persevere regardless of what they later choose. Wesley taught that a person could ultimately turn away from God's grace. Interesting fact number 4. Not every Baptist is a strict Calvinist. Southern Baptists especially are split on this internally. But as a starting point, this Calvinist versus Arminian divide is the single biggest fault line running through all of Protestant Christianity. Baptism. Who and how? Baptists only baptize believers. someone old enough to understand what they're doing and choose it for themselves. And it has to be full immersion, all the way under the water. Methodists practice infant baptism, while also baptizing older children and adults, either by sprinkling, pouring, or immersion. Methodists see baptism as a sign of God's grace given before the person has done anything to earn it, similar to circumcision in the Old Testament. Baptists see it as a personal response that has to come after real belief. You can't respond to something you don't understand yet, so in their view, a baby can't be baptized in any meaningful way. Interesting fact number 5. For most of Christian history, baptizing babies wasn't controversial at all. The debate over infant baptism versus believers' baptism became especially important during the Protestant Reformation. Church governance. Who's in charge? Baptist churches run on what's called congregational polity. Every single local church owns its own building, hires its own pastor, and answers to no one above it. The Southern Baptist Convention isn't a boss. It's a voluntary partnership churches can join or leave whenever they want. Methodist churches run on connectional, episcopal polity. Bishops assign pastors to churches. Methodists are connectional. Local congregations belong to a larger system of annual and general conferences, and bishops appoint clergy. And this is exactly why that 2022 Methodist split looked so different from a typical Baptist split. Methodist churches had to formally vote to disaffiliate, and in a lot of cases, pay the denomination to keep their own building. A Baptist church doesn't need permission to leave anything. There's nothing to leave because the local church is autonomous. Modern splits. The argument isn't over. So let's close the loop on that opening story, because this is where centuries-old theology turns into headlines. 1845. Southern Baptists break away specifically to keep appointing missionaries who owned slaves. That single argument is the founding event of what's now the largest Protestant denomination in America. Methodists split over slavery too in 1844, then spent nearly a century divided before reuniting in 1939. And in 2022, conservative Methodists broke off again to form the Global Methodist Church, this time over ordaining LGBTQ clergy and allowing same-sex marriage. By the end of 2023, more than 7,600 United Methodist congregations, close to a quarter of the entire denomination, had left. Before we close, it's worth noting that Baptists and Methodists agree on the Trinity, on salvation through Jesus, and on the Bible as their authority. And the disagreements we just covered is happening inside the same family, not across enemy lines. Here's my question to you. Would any of the above actually change which church you walked into on a Sunday? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this overview, please like, subscribe, and watch my other videos where I break down deep theology for you visually.